Hi Mimma, how are you?
Hi Georgie, I'm very well. How are you?
Good. I'm calling to chat to you about Digital Fashion Week because today's the last day, and it's been interesting. I think it's been an interesting 2 weeks. There's lots to talk about. What was your kind of overall feeling of it?
It's funny. I mean, it's a very good question because my overall feeling is that it's disappointing when people don't make an effort to be modern, relevant, and innovative, especially when you had 4 months of just knowing that this was going to happen and think about it. And it's exciting when people do.
I think, similar to you, being put in an awkward, difficult situation really does make you think of innovative ways to present. And I think the ones that broke outside of the usual rhythm of Fashion Week were the ones that were so exciting, and the ones that felt business as usual were a little bit disappointing. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's funny. I think the way you present today for this particular Digital Fashion Week was as important, if not more important, than the collection itself.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about who was your absolute favourite of Digital Paris Fashion Week.
I think my favorite was J.W. Anderson and Loewe, because I thought he was probably the one who was the most able to merge the two, the physical and the digital, the inverted commas, old fashioned and the new ways. And, he sent that beautiful box for Loewe, or for JWA, he had these, stills of drawings and mood boards. So it wasn't very technological, it wasn't very innovative in that way, but it was conveying an emotion, and then it was talking through the collection, and the collections were both very good. So, and also I absolutely loved Dior Homme, how, the Ghanaian artist Boafo was as much, as important as Kim Jones, the designer and the brand, and now everything came together in a very consistent and logical way. So probably if we're talking about favorite, those are my favorite.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned those two, because those are two of the designers who kind of, more so than anyone else, really showed a process or a step-by-step of getting there. So look, as you said, Loewe had these beautiful drawings, and you even got fabric swatches, and hearing JW talk about both the collections is pretty enchanting. And then Kim, part of the film that he presented, the whole first section was showing Amoeko's beautiful kind of paintings and how he works and how that whole story was told, which I think generally over the 2 weeks has been really nice. Seeing that kind of behind the scenes element has been really special.
And and also I think Portrait of the Artist, already the title made me excited and wanting to see it. And the all black cast, you can't be a designer and be out of tune with what's going on, and he did it in a very honest and genuine way. So I love that.
Yeah, me too. And what I really love is that it's so key to Kim, because everything that he does is so personal and so kind of emotive, and he's just got this amazing archive that he almost pulls from. And so it's, as well as being this gorgeous celebration of such a beautiful artist, it's also super, super personal to him. He's got such childhood memories of Africa and Ghana in particular.
Yeah, I think that shows how important for a designer is not to be only focused on fashion, but have culture and references and travel, and and Kim Jones is a typical example of someone who has his head in many more things, and that shows in how he designs his collection. But again, I think Jonathan Anderson is another one. He's so deep and cultured.
Yeah, there's a real rich referencing in both of them.
And if we have to talk about something more technological and how exciting it was in the way it was presented, it's why mountaineering to me. It was very modern. It was a very modern use of technology without cannibalizing the collection, which I think is very important. The beginning of that video was extraordinary, and then suddenly the way the looks are presented, that was very exciting to me as well, and I'm not surprised that it came from Japan.
Yeah, it was just, to me, that was a perfect example of when film and animation and design can all come together to really kind of hammer home the brand ethos, as well as the really exciting elements of the garments, like that first whole section that you just mentioned, the all black section was so strong.
So strong, yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
What did you think about Louis Vuitton film?
Mixed bag for me. So I got really excited because I love when Louis Vuitton does kind of cartoons and animation. Huge fan of Louis Vuitton and Murakami. That's some of my favorite Louis Vuitton. And I think it works really well with the whole. So a bit of context: the film had all these wonderful cartoons taking us around Paris, but I think that works really well with Virgil's customer, and I think that was a really good kind of. I can see the collection that comes from this with all these characters and colours and the Louis Vuitton motifs. I loved that section of it. What I wasn't so keen on was it was too much Paris iconography, if that makes sense. But I think it was very clever because it would definitely work to the Virgil Louis Vuitton customer. I think it's quite a sweet stepping stone, so I'm excited to see what comes from it.
Exactly. I think the clever part of it is that I really want to see the collection in August in Shanghai, because for me that would be, oh, now I get it. Because I don't know if I'm not trendy enough or clever enough, but something escapes me about that, so I don't want to talk about that too much, because probably after the 6th of August I will have a different opinion of it. But I was interested in knowing what. Hey, can we talk about negatives? Did you have any negative or underwhelming?
I think it was okay. What did you think?
I have a disappointment. I have an underwhelming feeling for Rick Owens. One of my favorite designers. His shows are always so important and so political, and then to his excuses that apparently he changed his mind the night before, the night before, and so made everybody stay up all night and do what he did, that thing, whatever it was, with his favorite, I'm inverting commas, model Karen Dillon, and him photographing him. It was getting a little bit on my nerves. I was a little bit bored, and so in the end I don't even remember the collection, which I'm sure it's so important, so for me that was really underwhelming. Like the Y Project one, which wasn't very different, but at least it was more in tune with what they were trying to do, but I think that's a little bit lazy. I don't think it's my favorite way to do it.
Okay, I'm going to have to disagree, because I loved the Rick Owens, I think, but I agree with you on some level in that I think the presentation was a little bit repetitive. But what I liked was that Tyrone is kind of one of Rick's favourite models. He's been in the past kind of 3 or 4 shows, and this kind of really intimate moment of them together and Rick saying, oh, so cute, very cute, as they style each other, I just thought was really sweet. And it's not really a side of Rick that we get to see that often. It was...
Yeah, I get you.
I do really think the collection was amazing. I loved the shoulders and the jumpers and these kind of soft pinks.
And colours.
Beautiful wide leg trousers. And I think had that collection shown as a show, we'd all be puddles on the floor. And with my project, I think I agree a little bit, be a little bit lackluster, but what I like about Y Project is that every time we go backstage to chat to Glenn Martins at a Y Project show, what does it mean? What does it stand for? What was your starting point? And he always says Y Project is about the way you dress. It's about getting dressed. Yeah. So it makes total sense for him. And also I think half of the fun of Y Project is that when you buy a garment, I have a t-shirt that I have to Google every time I put it on, because I forget every time where my arm is supposed to go and how it's supposed to fit around my head. So I quite like the video being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, being like, we know we're quite difficult to wear.
Yeah. That's why I said a little bit underwhelming for me, but yeah.
And shall we start with the negatives of Milan? Because I think
let's get over with it.
Let's get it over with. I think we can't glaze over the fact that Milan decided to have people at shows. They decided to do shows with an audience. I mean, do we really need that right now? Is that what fashion's asking for in this time? I don't think so.
People flown from wherever, and I mean, they were not even that social distancing. Let's name them. I mean, Dolce & Gabbana and Etro. I thought they were so pathetically old-fashioned and desperate. It's like you don't know anything else, and the collection is not even interesting, and there's nothing creative about it. And you flew people, and you sit them there on front row and second row. Oh, I thought it was sad.
I think the fact that they felt the need to stick with the old way of presenting in such climbs is very representative of what they showed.
Very well said.
But there were some really gorgeous positives. I think we're going to have a little bit of a gushy sesh over Prada because it was just so spectacular.
Oh my God. That was so good. They was so very Prada, yet so very modern, yet so perfectly executed. An amazing collection. I want everything. And Yeah, I mean, just perfection.
I thought it was absolutely exquisite, and I just loved the lack of colour. And normally I love a print or I don't know, I just love, or a texture, but they're just crisp. I mean, I could tell you loved it instantly because there's a lot of beautiful white shirting in this collection.
I mean, the banality of those black dresses with just the logo on in the front, that became so refined, and so banality, not in a negative way, because it was so refined and so chic, and so only Miuccia can come out with that, you know, and so in tune with the times, and so right for now. I don't know how to say it more, you know. It was just perfection. And the third chapter, Joanna Piotrowski with the curtain and them picking up, it was so good. It was so amazing.
It was brilliant.
I kept watching it again and again and again.
Me
well
too.
Done, Prada. Well done.
And Miuccia's lovely little bow. And I'd also like to spotlight Sine. So brilliant, because they're a design duo I just think people don't give enough credit to, and they have a lot of weight on their shoulders, I feel, because they've kind of been the hot thing in Milan for a little while, or the up and comers, I suppose, for a while. But they're surprisingly one of the only brands that used that kind of digital 3D animation to such success. I think it was so brilliant. And them doing the Macarena.
Yeah, I mean, it was so joyful, but also, you know, but then if you read what they've really done, I think it becomes even more interesting, because I'm sure you know that they presented the collection in canvas, white canvas. It was called canvas, right?
Yeah, it's called Canvas 1.
Because then the buyers, and then if you saw in those digital character, 3D character, it was the same shape, changing color and stripes, because then that's what actually happened when you buy.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And it's also, I know that they were thinking of something like this for a while, but it's so perfectly suited to now, when people are struggling to figure out what buyers want and how buyers are going to figure out what they want for their shop floor, what's their aesthetic going to be. Sine have kind of solved that in this huge sweep, being like, okay, you know, you pick exactly what you want, we'll give you the styles, we'll give you the innovation. I just think that's so clever.
And I love the idea of being in tune. So the collection was the right thing for now, the way sold is absolutely the right thing for now, and their presentation was so cute and so innovative and so joyful and so perfect for that collection.
Yeah.
And you know what I like? For me, if I have to talk about Milan, it goes from Prada to Sane to Gucci, and so it's two big classic meaning. And in the middle, the newcomer, and I love that, and Gucci was just mind-blowing, perfect as well, and absolutely great and creative and beautiful and perfect.
It was so good. I think the way they delivered that, Alessandro is so clever, coming up with such a fun idea that shows you behind the scenes, again, taking it back to that thing that was kind of an indicator of what succeeded these past 2 weeks, showing us how things work, showing us the thought process. And it's something that he did last season, but now just done on such a big, fun scale, and showing the lookbook in this old kind of Microsoft 95 loaded tabs way with his voice and annotations, and I just loved it. And I also thought the collection was fantastic as well.
Collection was great, but you know, one of the things that touched my heart the most is, I don't know if his Italian voice at the end was translated, but as you can, and he was talking about courage, and he was talking about having the courage to do something different, and then he said, but actually you don't even need courage, you just need to do things, and that's courageous enough. And I thought it was so beautiful, you know, and especially he was implying in the fact that we've been isolated and scared, and then you cannot come out with nothing, you know, to go back to what we were saying at the beginning.
Yes,
I have to ask you, I haven't had the time to see the Versace one.
So it was kind of a collaboration with the rapper AJ Tracy, and it was a kind of short collection that's going to be released in August, I believe, which was kind of typical bright colours, Tropicana vibes, Versace logos, and it was almost a music video for AJ Tracy. I think it was fine, but it kind of feeds into that idea that's been permeating these past 2 weeks of this campaign video. It was very much in keeping with the idea of a campaign, which I think a lot of these fashion presentations have felt like. That's not necessarily a negative, but it didn't blow my socks off, put it that way.
So what did you think about Zegna?
I thought Zegna was interesting. What I like about Zegna is got this kind of like romanticism, even though it's like kind of the big blockbuster on the Milan schedule. Because even though every Zegna show, you're like transported to some of the most beautiful buildings in Milan, or you know, just the huge scale productions, but it still manages to have this idea of kind of romanticism and poetry and beautiful silhouettes and shadows and all that. So I thought that was really lovely, the fact that they did a show as usual but with no kind of physical people there, but live streamed it for the Instagram, so it's kind of business as usual. But clothes wise, I think it was okay. I think there were some really lovely silhouettes. I always loved their suiting, and I love the Zegna colour palettes.
I think it was an anniversary collection, so I thought the clothes were correct for the occasion. And
yeah, you're quite right. It was 10 years.
10 years of Zegna?
I think
100.
It probably. I'm like, only 10 years.
I thought that image of them standing on the roof with all those pastel was really, really beautiful. And apparently they had the longest show catwalk in the world, like 3.3 kilometers of walk in the woods. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, so I think that's really striking, and if you can create all of that, and also what they do really well as well, and they do this every season, but I think it works really nicely with the fact that we're all indoors and looking at our phones, is they have so many different kind of Zegna representatives around the world who they've all been sent Zegna, and they all kind of, it's all, you know, it's a social media plug, but it's done really nicely so that it feels slightly more authentic than the usual kind of celebrity push.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to say a word about Jacques Mus. I thought that let apart the beauty of it, because of course that field was beautiful, and of course the collection was rather beautiful, I must say. But again, you know, it was very derivative of what is done the season before. And again, I mean, come on, you're a young guy. Can you come up with something more original?
I actually really didn't like the last collection. Which, when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's the perfect antidote to the lavender. But did it have to happen now? And could it have waited until a more appropriate time?
But maybe in September we're all back doing the all same. So do it there, you know.
Exactly.
At least the models were pretty beautiful and the clothes were beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
I got over the disappointing thing of it. I'm like, I'd rather see photos of this, because it was
would I like a Jacques Mus wardrobe? Yes, please.
Yeah, but more a Prada or Chanel or Gucci one after seeing Milan.
Yes,
they were by
true.
far my favorites as far as presentation and collections.
Yes, yeah.
The three of them. Well done.
Yes, well done. Let's end on that high note. Well done to those three. Thank you for taking the time to chat to me, Mimma. It's nice to have a little.
Thank you. Always a joy to talk to you, Georgie. See you in September.
See you in September.
Bye-bye.
Bye.